All right, George, welcome to the show. I'm excited to talk about another practical application in robotics, automation, and artificial intelligence. And this is in an area I didn't necessarily expect. We're talking industrial lawn mowing, basically. Tell us a little about this, right? I'm interested to learn.
Yeah, of course. My name is Dr. George Leno Holmes Jr. I'm CEO and co-founder of Hire Henry. Again, we're developing industrial robotic lawnmowers primarily for cities, helping them maintain large green spaces. So we're currently deployed in the city of Sugar Land, which is a suburb of Houston, helping them maintain their 340-acre regional airport. We're headquartered out of St. Louis, Missouri. One of our first pilot programs was with the city of Northwoods, right outside of St. Louis. We're spinning up pilot programs on the East Coast, and part of our big goal is how do we help create the future of work in an industry that desperately needs it. When we look at the future of work, a lot of young people do not want to sit on a rod and lawnmower for 8 hours a day in the hot sun, especially when they could do an Uber or they can do a DoorDash. So we're going to help landscape and be able to work for the modern worker.
Yeah, so how did you, of all businesses to come up with, how did you come upon this one as the problem to solve?
Yep. So I grew up mowing grass with my grandfather. He's in his mid-80s, and he's still going to mow about 20 lawns around St. Louis. And growing up, of course, like many folks, didn't really enjoy mowing grass. But for me, it was particularly bad because I had bad allergies. So I would load up on Benadryls. We would mow grass all day long. And afterwards, I would only be able to take a shower and just completely sleep, right?
Yeah.
So this was a personal problem of mine. Didn't know anything about robotics or engineering, and started to go to Missouri S&T for mechanical engineering, study primarily manufacturing and manufacturing automation. And in 2018, we got a grant from the National Science Foundation. And we really started to study the commercial landscaping industry and see how big this problem is. And that's when we realized big industry, big problem, looking at the future of work, this is something that we have to address. So we jumped in head first.
Awesome. So, another question I have is we've been talking a lot about clusters and where there's a lot of concentration around robotics and tech right now. We're here in Pittsburgh. You see it on the coast, Boston, Silicon Valley. What are your thoughts on the way things are evolving in markets like St. Louis, something that's a place near and dear to my heart? I'm from there. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to hear, let's talk about the perspectives on what it's like being in that area that's outside of some of these, let's say, clusters or these major developing robotic ecosystems.
Yeah, so for listeners, I'm also from St. Louis. And it's great to run into folks from St. Louis all around the world and all across the country. Pittsburgh is very unique because there's very few places that you can come to where there's such an emphasis and concentration on robotics and folks that are excited about the future. But I'm excited about the fact that huge opportunities are going to come from outside of these clusters. I think that's how we see founders that have been overlooked. That's how we see markets and opportunities that have been overlooked, is by going outside of a lot of the institutions where folks have a common way of thinking. And maybe are experiencing the same types of problems. When we talk about robotic lawnmowers in a place like Missouri, that's the show me state, right?
Yep.
When people ride down the road and they see Henry robotic mower mowing the community park or mowing alongside a highway or a roadside, that's when folks get excited. Like, okay, that's what robotics and artificial intelligence is. That's how it's going to impact my life. That's how I'm going to be able to get access to fully electric equipment, maybe get contracts with cities, and be able to create a business and actually impact the world. So that's what we're focused on. I think that growing up in the Midwest and sort of St. Louis helped to define what that looks like.
Yeah, I've got to ask. So the company's called Hire Henry.
Yep.
So where do you get that? What's the origin story behind the name? There's got to be something good behind that too.
Of course, yeah. Of course, my name's George, not Henry. We named the company after John Henry. And if you remember the story of John Henry, it's an old folklore out of West Virginia. And as the story goes, this guy named John Henry was a hard worker. One day his boss comes in and says, John Henry, I'm going to replace you and all your fellow co-workers with a machine. And John Henry says, absolutely not on my watch. So there's this big competition, man versus machine. and John Henry wins. He beats the machine, but the irony at the very end is that he worked so hard to beat the machine that his heart gave up and he died. So we named the company in honor of John Henry, the company, of course, being Hire Henry, for two main reasons. One, we want to honor the contribution of the middle class, the blue-collar worker, in making society and what it is today. And number two, going forward, we acknowledge the fact that as workers, we have to work alongside robotics and machines in order to create the future. Yeah, and that's a part of what's going to be required for us to be globally competitive going forward.
I love that. You know, I'm thinking I've got to ask you something that you brought up when we met at the bar yesterday. You're talking about how you've got a small sampling of customers right now, right? And you're making sure things work well there before scaling up, right? Now, I'd like to get your perspective on that strategy, because I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to this that, you know, might want to start a company, are starting a company. I want to make sure people learn from your approach as well.
Of course. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is folks are raising a lot of money, maybe don't have the product fully nailed out yet, and our strategy was start in such a way that we could get non-dilutive capital, we can reduce the market risk, we can have a really strong product. I'll encourage folks to visit our LinkedIn at Hire Henry so you can see what this products look like. We just launched a new version of the product just a couple weeks ago. But for us, we wanted to ensure that there was a market, that we had a product that addressed that core problem before we went out and really started to raise a lot of money. And I think that's a very good strategy, at least so far it's working out for us.
We got to wrap with some how it's made style stuff, right? So how does this autonomous lawnmower work, right? Just real succinctly described as if we're having a drink, I don't know, at like a St. Louis brewery or something like that.
Yeah, cool. So basically we have users that's able to go into our proprietary software. They can define the mow area. It's very similar to Google Maps where you have that aerial view. It only takes about 10 minutes. It doesn't require any advanced training or any advanced degrees. Once that area has been defined, a worker takes Henry, places it out in that predefined field, press go, and it mows the grass completely by itself. That allows the worker to focus on high-value, high-impact tasks, like trimming the edges or trimming the hedges or talking to the customer. As Henry's mowing, we use 360-degree computer vision so we can identify any obstacles that come within a 20-foot radius. We'll automatically stop, cut off the blades. We can send a live video feed to a remote operator that's sitting in the air-conditioned office. That operator can take control of Henry, navigate around that obstacle, and then put it back into autonomy mode, similar to cruise control in a car.
Yeah.
Once Henry's done mowing, you can imagine a worker loading 3 or 4 of these in the back of a fully electric pickup truck, and they drive to the next job site to deploy. That's really important about the fully electric pickup truck because it saves our customers costs when they don't have to buy big trucks and trailers, especially trying to navigate through crowded cities.
That's pretty cool. I love that. This was a great application. I'm glad you were one of the first people I bumped into here. Glad we got you on the show. Awesome topic. I will make sure there are ways to link up with what you're doing. There's got to be videos on the internet of how this works as well.
Of course. LinkedIn, YouTube, at hirehenry.us.
Love it. Well, for all the listeners out there, there will be ways to link up with Dr. Holmes as well as Hire Henry. Check out videos. Those will all be on the show notes page. Thanks so much for jumping on the show.
Super. Thanks for having us.
Cheers.